Namaskar viewers, hello and welcome to Sansad TV. I'm Tina Jha, you're watching Perspective. India is studying the implications of the strategic mutual defence pact between Saudi Arabia and Pakistan, under which the two countries have agreed to view an attack on either as an aggression against both. In a statement, the Ministry of External Affairs said, and I quote, "We have seen reports of the signing of a strategic mutual defence pact between Saudi Arabia and Pakistan. The government was aware that this development, which formalises a long-standing arrangement between the two countries, had been under consideration. We will study the implications of this development for our national security as well as for regional and global stability." The statement further read, "The government remains committed to protecting India's national interests and ensuring comprehensive national security in all domains." On Wednesday, Pakistan and Saudi Arabia signed the Strategic Mutual Defence Agreement during Pakistani Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif's visit to the Gulf country. As per a report published by a Saudi press agency, the agreement aims to develop aspects of defence cooperation between Pakistan and Saudi Arabia and also strengthen joint deterrence against any aggression, and that any aggression against either country shall be considered an aggression against both. We'll try to understand from experts the implications of this defence pact between Pakistan and Saudi Arabia for India and in the wider realm for West Asia. We are joined by two distinguished guests. I'm delighted to welcome on the program today Air Marshal Sanjeev Kapoor, retired. He's a defence expert. Air Marshal, thank you for your time. Welcome to the program. And I'm also pleased to welcome former Ambassador Ashok Sajjanhar. Ambassador, always a delight to have you with us on our programs. Let me begin the program today with you. So Pakistan and Saudi Arabia have had informal defence relationship going back several decades. We found mention also in the MEA statement, but this kind of formalization of that relationship into a NATO-style pact is what has raised concerns. Let's begin with the biggest question that arises for us. What does this deal mean for India?
Yeah, thank you very much, Tina, for having me on the show. Yeah, you're very right. I think this is the big question. But what I would like to say at the moment is that let us not get ahead of ourselves. Let us not jump the gun. Let us, today we've just come to know that this agreement has been signed. Let us see when the agreement is released, when we get full details of what are the terms, conditions, etc., etc. And that is exactly what the Ministry of External Affairs has said, that we were aware that discussions as far as this is concerned were going on. Now, I'm also quite certain that if the government felt that it was something very damaging as far as our own national security is concerned, they would have taken some action, preemptive action on that in terms of talking with Saudi Arabia, etc. But obviously, India has not done that. The second point, Tina, we need to keep in mind is that India's relations with Saudi Arabia are very robust. They are very strong. They are very wide-ranging. A large number of areas, whether it is trade, whether it is energy, whether it is, even as far as, let us say, in 2023, when India was the chair of G20, the IMEC was signed, India, Middle East, Europe Economic Corridor. So that goes through this. So whether it's investment or trade or even as far as defense is concerned, because recently in, I think, 2020, we had the visit of our army chiefs there. After that, the defense cooperation between the two countries has been accelerated. So our relations with, there is great understanding. We have a strategic partnership council with Saudi Arabia. The meeting of that took place just in April when Prime Minister Modi was there. Prime Minister Modi has been given the highest award by Saudi Arabia. The point I'm trying to make is that the relations between India and Saudi Arabia are very strong, very vibrant, very dynamic. And so, we need to have confidence in this relationship. Of course, going ahead in the program, Tina, we can discuss as to, because it has not happened in vacuum. There's a geopolitical context, there's a regional context to why this is taking place.
Right.
And also we need to be mindful of the fact that this relationship, Pakistan, there's been a formal relationship also, not only informal. Formally, Pakistan has been training Saudi soldiers, Saudi officers, and more than 8,000 of their defense personnel have been trained by by Pakistan. So their relationship has been, it is the Pakistan army, their contingent, which provides also security to the royal family in Saudi Arabia, in Riyadh. And, even if I remember correctly again the dates, one of the former army chiefs of Pakistan, Rahil Sharif, he, after retirement, was co-opted by Saudi Arabia to head the multi-country military alliance against, which had been established against ISIS, etc., etc. There were 41 member countries of that. I think to begin with, it was a lesser number. But basically, most of the members of the Organization of Islamic Countries was there. So this relationship between Pakistan and Saudi Arabia has also been strong. And we have to really see once, the details are available.
You're right, Ambassador. So, in the geopolitical context in the region, whether it's a signal more to Israel than to India is something that we will delve in greater detail in due course of the program. But back home, Air Marshal, what's raising concerns, what's triggered debates countrywide is the wording of the pact. That attack on one will be treated as an attack on both. And since this news has come out, what India is worried about in terms of the security aspect is that our Operation Sindoor is not over yet. India has categorically said that any terror attack on India henceforth will be treated as an act of war and will meet with an adequate response. So as per this defense pact, will it mean, and we need to perhaps also give an appropriate answer to everyone who's raising this question, that will this defense pact going forth mean that if in future another conflict breaks out between India and Pakistan due to terrorist acts emanating from Pakistani soil, will it mean that Saudi Arabia will aid Pakistan against India?
See, let's see the background. All conflicts which have happened with Pakistan and India ever since independence, in all their narratives, all their books, all their curriculums, they have defeated India. So this is the irony of Pakistan. 48 war, 65 war, 71 war. There's absolutely no mention in their books about creation of Bangladesh. There is no mention in Pakistani books about 93,000 prisoners of war, which India took during 1971 war. There is no mention anywhere in their records and books to a normal narrative that they lost Kargil Heights. There is absolutely no mention. And why go far? This Op Sindoor just which got over on 10th May. There was distribution of sweets in streets of Rawalpindi, Islamabad, Lahore, that they have won. The narrative which they have given to the countrymen, we shot down 6 Rafales, they showed some pictures, we have put down S-400s and this thing. So, in my appreciation, with this background, they have an ability to convert weakness into strength for their own people. So there, what Ambassador was saying is absolutely correct. The details of this agreement are not clear as yet. But there is an agreement that we all know. And the wording of this agreement have been taken in this context to show that, Pakistan has struck a deal with Saudi Arabia. And now if anything happens to us, so this is one aspect. Second aspect, which we should not forget, it has something to do with the Israeli strike on Qatar. The Israeli fighters flew around 1,800 kilometers, 15 of them a few days ago, and struck the Hamas people in Qatar. And I'm sure they would have overflown this area, Saudi and other area, must have done refuelings. At least 2 sets of refuelings would have been needed for the jets to get airborne from Israel, bomb, and go back to Israel. So it cannot be that the countries over which these aircrafts have flown were not taken into confidence before the strike. So this is sure. Now, what has happened with the strike is that it has shaken up this complete area. because one after the other, be it Syria, be it Lebanon, and be it targets in nearby countries, targets in Iran, and even Egypt is on hot standby. The Qatari targets have been hit. This has the second time. The first time the Iranians hit the U.S. base after their B-2 bombers came and attacked the nuclear facilities. So this has somehow militarily, shaken up the Gulf region. Now, what Saudi, in my appreciation, tends to gain is it is operating the American platforms, the Western platforms. The bulk of the supplies in this region is by the Americans. And Pakistani military hardware, like the ambassador just said, that the Army, Navy, and the Air Force has an element of Pakistani instructors there. And like the royal family is guarded by the Pakistani troops in Saudi. Similarly, there is an exchange of instructors. So Pakistani instructors go and teach the people in their academies. And there is a cross-posting and cross-training of people from Pakistani side to Saudi. So the military interface between these two countries go back to many decades. They are wanting to strengthen on that. And Pakistan saw an opportunity in this turmoil in the Gulf region to show that in case it is attacked by India in future, the Saudis will come to the rescue of the Pakistanis. So this is the narrative that has gone around since yesterday in complete media and the channels of Pakistan. It is not clear, it is not sure, but it throws up a lot of challenges in the neighborhood. In my appreciation, there are three countries which are affected by this agreement. One is Israel, second is Iran, and third is us. Now, what happens to these three countries' relation with Pakistan has to be seen. Iran is now getting surrounded, by all sides, because if Saudi and Pakistanis collaborate, it is a threat to Iran. So that will push, in my appreciation, Iran more closer to China and Russia to get their hardware, other support. The nuclear targets have already been hit. And they are also threatening that Israel may carry out another strike. Now, if that happens, Israel now, if it unfolds more, in my appreciation, may take on an option of preemptive strike on Pakistani nuclear facilities.
Okay,
because
so we will talk about some of the security threats for all of these countries, and particularly in context of India, because if now Saudi money is flowing into Pakistan, how does it also embolden the jihadist forces in our neighborhood is something that we cannot overlook, and we will discuss that in the next round. But Ambassador, since Air Marshal spoke about the Israel factor, let me get in your views on how significant could the Israeli threat for Saudi Arabia be, given that Saudi Arabia and at one point in time wanted to normalize ties with Israel. With Pakistan, on the contrary, it had a frosty relationship for several years. Do you think what happened in Qatar could be a reason strong enough for Saudi Arabia to actually secure this kind of defense agreement with Pakistan?
Yeah, thank you, Tina, for this question. You see, there can be no other reason. This is the only reason, I think, by attacking Qatar. And but of course, what Israel says, and I think that is what the evidence also is, that it has carried out surgical precision strikes, basically against the Hamas operatives, the Hamas leadership that was in Doha. It was not against, it was not a blanket sort of an attack on Qatar as such. But I think this has railed not only Qatar, but also, a large number of other countries in the region. And you would have seen that, Egypt has yesterday termed Israel as an enemy country. Now, you would have also noticed that, after the Camp David Accords, Egypt has never spoken of Israel as an enemy state, as an enemy nation. But this has had far-reaching consequences. So it is not only Qatar, but it is the whole region there, because they feel that Israel is not predictable. Israel cannot be trusted. It is not credible. So we have to make alternative arrangements that If push comes to shove and then we are at, there is some sort of a threat, then we have some security. And I think that is the only reason why it has been done. I think it is formalizing an arrangement. Pakistan has already been, as I said, and as the Air Marshal also said, Pakistan has already been supporting, and providing military help and assistance. Here it tends to formalize it. What I would like to mention, just speculate, as I said, and the government has also said this, we will wait for the final agreement, the final formulations that are, because this would be, sort of a journalistic, impressions that are being shared, that attack on one is an attack on other. I'm sure there will be carve-outs for countries, particularly, those countries which are very friendly as far as Saudi Arabia is concerned. India definitely falls in that category. So we'll really have to wait and see. But to coming to your question, Tina, yes, it is, Israel, actions by Israel. Although Israel is trying to justify it, saying that, when the United States had wanted to, act against Osama bin Laden, they did that in 2011. When the United States had wanted to act against the terrorists who were responsible for the 9/11 attacks, it went to Tora Bora and in Afghanistan, and it attacked those countries. So it's trying to rationalize, it's trying to justify. But of course, no one is buying this argument, Tina.
So, Ambassador, is it also a message to the United States? Do you think Saudi Arabia and countries in the Arab world are now wary of their reliability on the United States, given what happened in Qatar, and perhaps they believe that it had the tacit approval of the US president?
Let's put it this way, Mani. What Donald Trump has said, that he was not informed before this attack took place, and we have had Marco Rubio. Of course, he comes and makes different noises when he is in Tel Aviv, and he makes noises when he's in Doha, because he's. But then Qatar is a very strong military strategic partner as far as the United States is concerned. It is its biggest base in Qatar. The United States has, and it has stationed thousands of troops there. So, that relationship is also important. You would recall that, in his first visit in the second term, he had gone, President Trump had gone to the region. He'd also traveled to Qatar, and he'd got a red carpet treatment, and Qatar had even gifted him a $475 million worth of, aircraft for his personal use. So the relations between Qatar and the United States are very strong. As far as Saudi Arabia is concerned, again, much of its defense equipment and its security paraphernalia, that really comes from the United States, and the relations of all these countries, whether it is Saudi Arabia, UAE, Egypt, Jordan, etc., with United States, are very vibrant, very robust. And I don't think that is going to get impacted too much. So maybe Saudi Arabia will have to look into the implications of all this, what is going to be the impact on other partners of Saudi Arabia if there were, because Pakistan is not a very credible country, meaning it has 200 million people, its economy is in shambles. Per capita income is $1,400, and it is given to terrorist activities. So I'm sure Saudi Arabia would not like to get involved, land itself in a situation created by Pakistan where its own responsibilities in the
You're right,
area of
Ambassador, and
security.
that's where the concern comes from. Since the news broke, social media has been abuzz because it's a country which is politically unstable, economically weakened, but is now claiming to be the net security provider in the Arab world. The concern here is not about Saudi Arabia getting, meddled into India-Pakistan conflicts. The concern is that the funds that may come from Saudi Arabia may be used to embolden the jihadist forces. And Air Marshal, this is something that has been cited as a huge security threat by people who served in the Indian government for years. They know the system, they know how Pakistan operates. How threatening could it be in terms of our security? Because for years India has made consistent efforts at UN platforms to list these terrorist organizations and dry up their funds. But if there is money coming in and they stand up back on their feet, it also weakens our fight against the terrorist forces. So how do you look at it from that angle, the threat to security forces and India's war against terror?
See, I just tweeted a little while ago that Pakistan has mortgaged its nuclear weapons to Saudi Arabia for $6 billion in the first tranche. So this was my tweet a little while ago. This covers the aspect that Saudis are looking for a nuclear umbrella because as things are unfolding, they would need an ally in case of any use of tactical nuclear weapons by any of the countries. They need an umbrella. So Pakistan has, leveraged this thing which they have. Now, specifically coming to your question about the money which they get. Yes, of course, there is absolutely no doubt in anybody's mind that all the IMF loans or the World Bank tranches which they get is some part is siphoned off for the satellite pictures which I just saw a few days ago available on open sources. It showed to indicate that at Murid Ke, Bahawalpur, all these places which were struck during Option Dur on 7th early morning have been reconstructed. They have come up. The airfields have been repaired. Rahim Yar Khan just got operationalized a few days ago. It took them 4 months to get that runway online. Both Sakar and other Jakobabad airfields and Sargodha airfields have been repaired and up on track. So it's a matter of time that they will regroup. And one other factor, which is a little diplomatic in nature, that the Chinese probably have realized that the closeness between Pakistan and America now, of late, mainly after Option Dur, may not be to their liking. So Pakistanis, in their larger scheme of things, may be opening up another avenue, less China, that from where some funding. So they find an ally in Saudi, which is in need of the Gulf region to have a nuclear umbrella, which needs more troops in case it has some skirmish with Israel or any other regional country. The next aspect, which I feel has not been spoken, is Houthis issue in Yemen. So Houthis have been, funded by Iran. So when this pinch comes, you may find that Israel may take, aircrafts and come and start bombing targets in Yemen. And this area would again open up. So that's what I said in the beginning. In my appreciation, Israel, Iran, and India are the three countries which would be discussing the implications of this agreement, which we just began this program with. It will take a little more time for it to unfold. And in my appreciation, Saudi may not do anything, a big scale, which may, because the relation between India, like Ambassador covered, are deep and strong. And India being the fourth largest economy, becoming a regional power and aspirations of a global power, would certainly need, the energy flowing, and vice versa. The Saudi will also need India by the side, and the defense cooperation between the two countries is on.
So whether, Saudi will be intervening as much in Pakistani affairs is something that we'll have to wait and watch, and the details of the agreement will be known in a few days. But as Air Marshal suggested, it could be also the other way around, that Pakistan could be getting embroiled in a prolonged conflict that we see in the West Asian region, and especially as far as the Houthis are concerned in relation to Saudi Arabia. Mazda, I'll take a related question on the security threat and about the funding. I was going through, of course, social media handles, and I came across geopolitical analysts who've been citing it as a huge security threat. They're saying Pakistan will now be able to buy US weapons that it has been needing for a long time now with Saudi money, and which Trump administration seems quite willing to sell. And they're citing examples from what happened in the 1970s when the US Congress was unwilling to approve loans under the foreign military funding for Pakistan. How concerning could that be for us? Pakistan has the money to buy American weapons and using against India?
Yeah, as far as the buying of American weapons by Pakistan is concerned, US will supply it to Pakistan if it considers that it meets its own foreign policy interests. It's not going to be sort of dictated very much by Saudi Arabia, Saudi interests or etc. But you're right that, Saudi Arabia in any case provides funding, both Saudi and UAE who have the possibility. They have been providing funding. You would remember that whenever Pakistan has economy has really faltered very, very badly, it's required to pay off loans, its installments, etc. It goes, with a begging bowl to UAE, to Saudi Arabia, to countries like that who bail it out. If you remember, some time ago, there was, it had gone to China, it was rebuffed by China, and then it had gone running to its partners in West Asia. Now, because of the Islamic card, because of the Islamic affinity, this has been coming to Pakistan, quite often of late. Of course, this had also stopped somewhat, but it could commence. But I'm sure that as far as Saudi Arabia is concerned, it will ensure that there are adequate safeguards in terms of where Pakistan is using that funding. And as far as the United States is concerned, it will really see what if its interests are served. Only then will it supply. Right now, its posing up to Pakistan has basically been because it needs access, possible access to Iran, when it had gone to bomb the nuclear facilities in Isfahan, Natanz, Shiraz, etc. So it needs Pakistan for that. It also, I think, President Trump's personal family business deals, that is what was required for the cryptocurrency, and also maybe if there is some oil or critical minerals. So I think as far as US is concerned, it will be guided purely by its own interests, whether its own interests are advanced in that way. And Pakistan in that case will not really have that possibility to order weaponry from the United States off the shelf. So this is, I think, all these matters are going to become clearer once we have a better idea of the agreement, which should sort of see the light of the day in the coming weeks.
Absolutely,
or so.
You're right. So for now, as India studies the implications and our diplomats calibrate on our diplomatic outreach with Saudi Arabia, we'll have to wait and watch for that agreement and the details to come out. Time allows me to take up only that much on the program, gentlemen. Thank you once again for your time. It's a bilateral agreement between Saudi Arabia and Pakistan, but it has crucial alignments, realignments in the West Asian geopolitics, something that we'll all have to wait and watch out for. So with that, we'll have to wrap up the conversation. Thank you once again to both my guests, and to your viewers, thank you very much for your time as well.
Thank you very much.
संसद टीवी के और भी प्रोग्राम्स देखने के लिए सब्सक्राइब करें हमारा YouTube चैनल और हाँ, इन्हें लाइक और शेयर करना ना भूलें।